Hi, everyone. My name is Doug Peck. Welcome to my new show, Southborough Connects. Uh, I am currently the chairperson of the Southborough Council on Aging. I know that when many of you think of the Council on Aging, you think of the Senior Center, which is an important part of it. But the Council on Aging oversees the Senior Center, but it has other responsibilities as well. Part of our mission is to advocate for seniors. We are one of the largest segments of the population in Southborough. Out of 10,000 residents, there are about 2,300 of us over 60, and we are really growing at a double-digit rate. I have two main purposes for the show. The first is to introduce you to people in town who are making decisions that affect you, sort of to make town government more transparent. And today, uh, we have with us Andrew Dennington, who is the chairperson uh, for the select board in town. It's a very important part of the town, and he's going to discuss his background as well as just make sure everybody's informed as to what the select board does and what it does for the town. So I'll start right off introducing Andrew. How are you?
Good, Doug. And I really want to applaud you for starting up the new Southborough Connects interview series. I know you've had on a couple people on so far, including Mark Purple, our town
Right.
administrator, and Pam LaFrance, our senior center coordinator, right?
Yep. Director. Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I look forward to more of these shows. I think that's a great thing to do. So just a little about myself. I have lived in Southborough for 11 years. My wife, Catherine, and I moved here in 2013, and we have
Hmm.
two kids, Anne and Frances. Anne just turned 9 years old today. She's in third grade at Woodward, and Frances is a kindergartner at Finn. And one of the reasons I moved to Southborough, I'm originally from Acton, and my mom is from Framingham. So,
Hmm.
I like this idea of a community that you could kind of get involved in and make good kind of long-term professional and personal connections with people in the town. So, when I moved to town, I filled out the kind of volunteer form for
Hmm.
boards and committees, and everyone should be aware, and we want to get more volunteers. You can go to the town's website and see the list of what vacancies are currently um, on for positions on boards and committees.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. So then I first served on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 5 years, and I was chair for 2 years. I was on the advisory committee, which is our finance committee, for 2 years. And then I ran for the select board. It was then called the Board of Selectmen. It was the last year it was known
Right.
by that name. 3 years ago. And I currently serve as the chair. So
Okay.
you asked what is the select board? Sam Stivers, if
Hmm.
many of you see him at the transfer station, he kind of
Yeah.
holds regular office hours and invites people to come ask him questions. And he has a sign that says "Questions for the select board." Question. And you said one of the most frequent comments is, "What is the select board?" Right. So
Yeah.
just a little bit of the history of it. Right. So when New England towns formed way back one, in the case of Southborough, 1727.
Hmm.
The as a form of self-government, there was a group of select men who were chosen to help basically run the town. And then the towns were so small, it was basically everything having to do with care for public lands, management of a town common, things like that. Of course, times have changed,
Hmm.
but the select board is still it's the executive branch of a government, whereas cities
Okay.
have mayors, towns have select boards, and the legislative branch is town meeting. So what that really means is town meeting controls kind of spending, and that's a total, every registered voter is entitled to participate in town meeting and can show up and vote. Whereas select board is, an annual series of elections to serve on the select board. So right now, obviously, the town is too big for this group of 5 people.
Hmm.
Myself, Kathy Cook, Sam Stivers, Al Hamilton, and Margaret Landry to run everything. So we have responsibilities to appoint some of our appoint people on boards and committees, and also some of our real key department heads, including our town administrator, police chief, fire chief, DPW superintendent. So we work with them to make sure constituent concerns are being addressed and set kind of the overall direction of the town. Also, are the town's kind of financial policies, make sure that we have a well-run town. And I think we're fortunate that we've been a pretty well-run town for many years. So if you like, I can speak to kind of some of the issues that have been,
Well, let me just say one thing. So, I know also you meet twice a month. Is that correct? Which seems to be more frequently than a lot of other town departments like that meet. So,
yes,
because you obviously have a lot on your plate every session.
yes. So we meet, our regular pattern of meeting is we meet on the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. in the McAuliffe hearing room of the townhouse, which is up on the second floor. And except in the summer, we try to take a little bit of a break. In August, we try to meet only once, but sometimes more and more we meet because of Zoom now. We can have kind of special meetings called by Zoom if we need to kind of get something done that couldn't get done on another agenda.
So people can either come in person, right, or they can view it in real time on Zoom.
That's correct. You can go
Okay.
to the town's website and there's a calendar of meetings, and that's not just for the select board, for other boards too. And a lot of our meetings after COVID really we evolved to this hybrid format. We're actually making some investments so that a lot of the different meeting spaces, including the training room in the public safety building, which is if you enter, you go off to the left, there's this kind of a room which is used for public safety training, but also for meetings. And then the McAuliffe hearing room. So that the hybrid format means members, residents are invited to attend, to observe, and ask questions, and bring to our attention things which might not be on the agenda.
Okay. And so just for purposes, because some people don't like to be on Zoom
Sure.
calls, when they're there, no one can see who they are. They identify themselves, but for the most part, right, they're not being videoed at all.
That's correct. Well, for select board and planning board and some of those types of boards, if you want to come up and make a comment at the podium, that it's recorded by
Yes.
Southborough Access
Right.
Media. Right. Yeah.
Okay. But if they're on the Zoom and they're home, they're not being recorded, are they? I
Well,
mean, their voice is being recorded, but
yes.
are they being videoed?
Oftentimes it's just like a Zoom picture of you don't see
Oh,
people's
okay.
faces often. It just says their name. Yeah, I actually like to
Okay.
see people face to face. So sometimes I
I
wish we
know.
could see
Yeah.
people's faces. But
Yeah.
it's good for people who, for whatever reason for another, a lot of people have kids, and the times where we have these meetings are not great times for people to drive to
Right.
town hall.
Right.
Or other people who have maybe some mobility issues, the Zoom format really works well.
Or for some seniors who don't like to drive after dark, particularly in the fall or the winter hours, they can stay and leave as much, when they want to. I think it's a
Yes,
really big advantage to have it hybrid like that, be able to have really opens up the accessibility to just almost every resident.
it does. And the way you can, the meeting calendar on the town's website will have a link to each of the Zoom links to all of these meetings as
well. Okay, good. So what are some of the hot items right now that you're dealing with?
Sure. So you'll look out the next kind of year. Some of the big issues that the town is going to face are, as a lot of people know, we have a NERI building committee that is working with the Massachusetts School Building Authority to put together a proposal for a new Neary school. And that could take different forms. Could take a rehab of the existing Neary school, which is
Mhm.
older. Or it could take the form of a larger school, which could accommodate more than 2 grades. And that might lead to the closure of a school. And if that's the case, the school which would be closed is the Finn School. And then the Finn School could open up for another use as potentially a community center. So that's something that's going to be on the horizon in the spring of 2025. It would be one of the largest building projects that the town
Mm.
has faced in its history. So it's something that's really of importance, not just to the parents of children who might go to the new Neary, but also
Mhm.
every taxpayer, because
Right.
it's very important that we make the right decision in terms of what project we decide to pursue, how to finance it, because Doug, as you know, another one of the challenges we have, particularly for people on a fixed income, is we want to control, our overall rate of increases in
Mhm.
property taxes year over year,
Mhm.
right? So that's something that's definitely on the horizon. Another one, people who are followers of town meeting are probably familiar with the debate about regionalizing police and fire dispatch. We currently
Right.
have a setup where you walk into the public safety building. In front of you is the sign of dispatch. There's a little office there where as recently as 1 or 2 years ago, we were staffed so that you have only one dispatcher who is handling 911 calls at any time. And then we've heard from some of our public safety officials that that's not ideal, to have really the right kind of structure to efficiently and effectively respond to emergency calls. It's better to have multiple dispatchers there at the same time, which is difficult to balance because a lot of the time it's the phone is not ringing constantly off the hook,
Right.
right? So you
Right.
need to strike that balance.
Yeah.
And about a year ago, the select board entered into this agreement with Westborough and Grafton to regionalize into what would be called the Metro West Regional Emergency Communications Center,
Mhm.
but then backed out of it after town meeting expressed a lot of concerns about it, mainly because the proposed site of it was a site in Westborough that had been a formerly environmentally contaminated site. Now
Right.
here, Westborough and Grafton have since adjusted, picked a different site, so that leads to a different conversation about
Mhm.
whether that's a possibility. And we're trying to work to have something to present to town meeting in the fall of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are the two of the biggest issues going on. One of the things that's going to be on our agenda tonight is ARPA, which is some federal stimulus money that came out of COVID, where we basically got about
Mhm.
$3 million to spend on projects that might not otherwise get done. So we're trying to expand our sidewalk infrastructure.
Mhm.
And another, of course, perennial challenge for Southborough and other communities is increasing the diversity and affordability of our housing stock. We
Mhm.
are really concentrated in single family detached homes, which is good in a way. It's
Mhm.
kind of the bedrock of of a suburban community. But
Mhm.
now the new single family homes that are built are very expensive, and the
Yeah.
average price of a home is over $900,000 in Southborough. It's becoming a point where across the state, younger people can't buy homes, and then
Right.
it's difficult for seniors looking to downsize to find something that's priced right
Mhm.
for them.
Right.
So, so
I want to say, to the ARPA thing. I want to thank the select board. ARPA money bought us our addition at the senior center, and I
yes,
think that was a great use of the money. And I think the select board and others saw that as, hey, this is a chance to. We've been talking about it for a long time, where it's build it once. There's no other big reoccurring expenses. It has been a wonderful combination with Assabet doing the work on it. It's just about done. It looks great. We're going to have an opening celebration, sort of two of them. One for the kids because they've worked so hard on it all year long, and then probably another one for just the general public in the fall because knowing that we're coming up in the summer and a lot of people will be gone. But they've done a great job. It's really going to be a really big addition to the senior center and I think to the town as well. Because really, when you think about it, there are only really two public spaces for people to meet in town. One's the library and the other is the senior center. So it's really important that we have high quality public spaces. Um, and in terms of the sidewalks, I think that's another really good initiative. Um, when we look at what is called age-friendly cities and what's defined by the World Health Organization as sort of age-friendly cities, sidewalks play an important part for people to be able to get out and get into their neighborhood, see their neighbors. It's really, really important. Plus, when I look at what's been done around the Route 85, Route 30 intersection, it looks great. You know, it
Yep.
makes the town look so much nicer, which is important. We have a beautiful town and you want to keep it beautified like that.
I agree with you. And, even just I live in a neighborhood where it's relatively small and people are out walking a lot. One of the benefits there is you're going to see people from all different types of age groups, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
see some people with children,
Right.
you see some people who are retired, and that's great to just kind of is through those casual conversations with people that you kind of find out what's going on. Another challenge that we have in the town is one of the things which is interesting, you go to the library, you go to the old part of the library, and there's a shelf right in the middle. You can read it's interesting to just pick up an old Southborough, I think it was the Villager
Yeah.
newspaper from like as
Yeah.
recently as the 1990s. There
Really.
was a newspaper that it was a reliable source of news and information for people about, what's the town government doing, what are town
Hmm.
businesses doing. The fact that these newspapers have kind of disappeared has made it a
Right.
real challenge for, the select board and for, the town sometimes to just have people who to know the basic information about what's going on in the
Hmm.
town.
Hmm.
So, Doug, that's where I think, programs like this
Yeah.
serve a real give a real benefit to people. And another thing, I speak for myself and everyone else on the select board. We encourage you to reach out to us directly with any questions or concerns that you have,
Hmm.
and you can just write to selectboard@southboroughma.com.
Okay, good. I want to go back to the dispatch one just for a minute. I
Sure.
had a chance to go in and see that center. It's really, really beautiful, really state of the art.
Yeah.
If we were to go to a regional center, would we be hiring one or two people ourselves? Would they be Southborough town employees that would work at a regional center, or
No,
how would that work?
that's a really good question. So, because the state, for public safety reasons, wants to promote regionalization of um, public safety dispatch. There's a
Hmm.
statute, Massachusetts statute that authorizes this, and it basically would be um, somewhat equivalent to like a regional school district where it becomes its own entity, okay, which
Okay.
has a board of directors, and you write what's called an intermunicipal agreement, which is kind of like the
Hmm.
constitution of this new
Yeah.
little entity, right? So the board of directors, it's is seated with, it can vary, but here it would probably be the police and fire chiefs of the different towns, as well as it could be a representative from the select board of each town or each town's town manager. Um,
Hmm.
so some of the concerns have been expressed. Some people feel very strongly about the current form of government we have, where town meeting has real direct control over spending. And some people are wary of regionalization because they see it as a way where gradually town meeting loses control because the budgets are set through regional entities, and just town
Hmm.
meeting realistically doesn't have enough time to review every different line item.
Right.
And, you also, these regional entities have to think about ways of getting, like, Assabet, a regional school. I believe it's over 10 different towns participating. You can imagine
Yeah.
the system you got to set up where you're getting funding from 10 or so different communities to make sure that you're not held out by necessarily one holdout. So that's one of the reasons why in some reasons it's kind of controversial. But to your question, the dispatchers would be hired by like an executive director of the
Okay.
regional dispatch, and there are many other communities that do this. So for example, in Foxborough, there's a regional center that serves Foxborough, Mansfield, I want to say Easton, and maybe another community around there. And
Hmm.
there they have an executive director, and you go in, and there's, let's say, maybe 4 different dispatchers who are all kind of sitting together, and they
Hmm.
have very high technology that enables them to, for example, there's now technology where if you enable your iPhone to do it, if you call 911, the dispatcher can have access also to your, you know, basic health information, know if you have a
Oh.
certain medical condition or
Hmm.
allergies, and that can, that information is of course really valuable to the person who's responding to the incident.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting dialogue when it comes to that. So I would just encourage everybody to, check out uh, your agendas on a regular basis, see when it's coming up for discussion, and learn as much as you can about, what you think are the plus and minuses of it, and try to make an informed decision. I think it's really important because you know, uh, I know I've been with people, I've had to call 911 for people, and had, the town ambulance come and everything. And it's, particularly with seniors as we grow older, unfortunately, we have a lot of folks that are in their, late 80s and early 90s. And, once you fall, it really is important that you call and have somebody come that knows really what they're doing. And that's just a small piece of it, I know, but it's still a very important part. You want immediate response. You want people who know what they're doing, and you know, it's going to be expensive, however you do it, as the
Yeah.
town, continues to age a little bit. And of course, electronic infrastructure always seems to go out of date in 2 years. You always are looking at something
Yeah.
better to replace a beautiful center like ours. After it's only been 3 or 4 years, people say, well, why do you have to do that? It's because everything is just changing so fast when it comes to things like that.
And then one of the advantages of regional is the state provides grants to actually stand up
Yeah.
these centers, including, actually physically building a center,
Hmm.
the technology to build out the center as well. Whereas so then that way the cost of this gets shared among all the different participating communities.
Right. So we have, you and I are both sitting in front of nice open land in Southborough,
Yes. Yeah.
which I love. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
So when you mention, single family houses or things like that, do we really have that much still land available for people to be building, larger or new sort of subdivisions here?
I think the
And,
short answer to that is no. I mean,
okay.
since I moved to town in 2010, the some of the subdivisions that were built in maybe the 80s or so. I mean, that
Hmm.
land has been developed.
Right.
I can't think of any other places where there's land which hasn't already been developed like that. So I mean, certainly at least in my neighborhood, what you're
Okay.
seeing is you know, to subdivide the key, what you need is a little bit of frontage on a public way, right? And
Right.
then once you have that, you can then subdivide a lot. And so,
Hmm.
I mean, I think most people would make kind of the same observation. You're seeing the new homes that are built, they tend to be very nice homes. They are maybe clusters of 3 or 4 of them at a time.
Hmm. Okay.
And
The
the
one
cost
other
of
one that's
construction is so high, that's another reason that
right.
drives up
That's
the
why
cost.
they're, yeah. The one other sort of controversy, and I don't know enough about it, is with the MBTA
Yes,
and the, so can you describe what's going on there with the land that's around near the train station?
sure. Okay. So I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago, the legislature pretty overwhelmingly passed this law called the MBTA Communities Act, which it requires each municipality that has a T station, rapid
Hmm.
transit, or commuter rail to pass a zoning law that provides for by right, and that means someone that wants to build doesn't have to go to a board for a permit that would be
Hmm.
discretionary about whether the board granted it, to allow for denser multi-family housing. And the idea was to promote, transit-oriented development. A
Hmm.
certain percentage of your new zoning district, certain size of your new zoning district needed to be immediately near your T station. So for the rapid transit communities, meaning, red line, orange line, green line, blue line,
Hmm.
they have to enact these, they had to enact these bylaws, I believe, by the end of 2023. For the commuter rail communities, it's the end of 2024. So in the fall of 2000, in September of 2024, Southborough it's going to be on our warrant at town meeting. The planning board's proposal for our way to comply with the MBTA communities. Southborough's in a difficult position because the area that's immediately around our commuter rail station actually has some of the most affordable homes in town. And
Yeah.
it also has the historic Cordoville um,
Right.
neighborhood where, those are smaller homes that are really historic. We wouldn't want to
Yeah.
see those sold to
Right.
someone, then redeveloped into something else. So, the planning board has had a difficult job of how to balance all these concerns. Another thing that helped was about a year ago, the state listened to some towns that were in a position like Southborough and gave some relief and reduced the mandatory size of
Oh.
how much of this district needed to be immediately by a train station. And you could kind of
Hmm.
do a mix and match and put some of the zones elsewhere. So they have a proposal where, a little bit of it's on Route 9, a little bit of it is way up on this part of corner of town, which is borders
Hmm.
Marlborough, and a portion of it, because it has to be, is located immediately by the train station. But there are some, smaller parcels there that don't currently have homes, and they're often kind of south of Southville Road. A lot of those are,
Hmm.
environmentally sensitive sites, but I think they've
Right.
done a pretty decent job of doing it in a way which would meet the requirements of the law, but not,
Yeah.
lead to too much growth
Yeah.
too fast.
Right. So, yeah, as you can see, folks,
Yeah,
there's there may not be a multiple numbers of things going on, but there's two or three that are really important to the town and direction that we take. And if you want your voice heard, um, you really need to be, listening to the select board and, making your voice heard to them,
yeah.
and gathering the information. These are really all important areas. So, Andrew, thank you for coming on. This has really been, I think, helpful for people. And I think as we get closer to town meeting, we'll try to have some other shows on for people to get a little more clarity about where the issues stand now. But I really appreciate your time. I know, you know, I know what my job involves, and I think, as the head of the Council on Aging, you guys have about 10 times more responsibility. It's a lot of work, and takes a lot of time out of your personal time. particularly with a young family. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Doug. And again, I think you're doing your revamp of the Southborough Connects is great, and I'll try to spread the word and get you some more good guests.
Oh, good. Thank you very much.
All right,
All
thanks.
right, we'll see you all next time. Thanks.
Okay.